Hi, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the New Day with Natalie podcast. It's great that you're here. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about why your avoidant ex does not chase you, does not fight for you after the breakup, okay? Because you're probably like, wow, we were so in love. Like, we were each other's person. We were going to spend the rest of our lives together. Like, we were planning it. We were about to move in. We were about to get married. Like, all of the things were about to happen, and then the script flipped. And that's when your heart broke and you're like, what is going on? So you feel like they would want to fight for you, like they would want to chase you at some point, but they just don't. And it's so frustrating because you're convinced they're in love with you, yet they do nothing. And you're still in love with them. And so you're left all alone with a broken heart and broken promises. There's a couple reasons why your avoidant ex will not chase you, especially right after the breakup, and they're not going to fight for the relationship while you're still together. So the first reason is because avoidantly attached people fear rejection. Okay, you probably already know this, but avoidantly attached people will do whatever it takes not to put themselves in a position where they will be rejected. So if you guys are still dating and this was like right before the breakup, they are not going to fight for you. They are not going to make things better because just being in a relationship with you brings on the threat of you breaking up with them, you rejecting them. And that is scary. So to kind of run away and protect themselves from that possibility, they start to emotionally disengage and not feel anything for you. So if that does happen, they won't feel a thing. Also, they distance themselves from you and isolate themselves from everyone so that you can't reach them. You literally cannot reject them because they're unrejectable. They're so far away that it's like there's no chance of that happening. Okay? And then after the breakup, they're not going to chase you because they're finally free. They're finally free of this possibility that you could break up with them and you could basically validate the fact that they will never be with anyone, and that is just the way that they are. And deep down, that fear could be stemmed around the fact that they are unlovable and they will never be with anyone. And so they don't want to be rejected. They don't want to feel that the shame that comes with being rejected. So they make themselves unrejectable. And when you numb all of your emotions for a person, there's no emotional pain that you will feel because you've numbed everything. That's why there's no romantic attraction to you anymore. So there's no desire to chase. There's no desire to fight. And also, why would you fight for a relationship that could hurt you? So that's why they just don't fight. They don't do it. They just step back and they're like, you know what? This is over. It was just meant to be. I just can't be the person for you. The end. Okay. The other thing is avoidantly attached people fear vulnerability. They fear being emotional, okay? Because it was never something that was taught to them when they were younger. Like the way that your parents taught you to process and feel emotions is really going to tell a lot about a person as an adult and how they operate in an adult relationship, okay? If you guys were still in a relationship and it's right before the breakup, if your avoidant partner tried to fight for you, tried to make this thing work, that would have required them to be vulnerable and emotional, because you have to say like, this is how I feel. We need to make this thing work. We need to try harder. This is how I feel. Like just putting themselves on the line. Okay. And that is intimidating. It's scary. It's not something that they're used to because they've never done it. Because again, if they put themselves on the line and they're vulnerable, they're then risking rejection, right? Because you could be like, you know what? I don't want to do this, right? And so they don't want to set themselves up for failure. So they just do not share emotions. They do not fight for you, and they don't even put effort into trying to win you back or chasing you because, again, that feeling of rejection. Even when you guys are broken up, they're not going to reach out and be like, listen, I'm actually in love with you. I actually, I fucked up. I just want to be with you. They're not going to say that. And the reason why is because if they say they love you and you don't say it back, that's rejection. That brings up shame. That brings up, oh my God, I will just never be with anyone. I had something so good and I messed it up. I'm just validating the fact that I'm unlovable. So they're not going to do it. They're just going to step away. They distance themselves. They'll love you from a distance, but they won't get too close. Because if they get too close, you could hurt them. You could reject them. You could make them feel a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of blame, and it doesn't feel good. So why even do any of that at all? And the thing is, vulnerability in itself feels like you've lost all control, because when you share emotions, you can't control those emotions. So when you speak them out loud and you're like, this is where I'm at, it makes the avoidantly attached person feel like they've lost control, because if they share what they feel and you don't reciprocate in the way they need you to or want you to, then they just feel like they have lost control of the entire conversation, the entire relationship, their entire life. And therefore, why even have that conversation in the first place? Does that make sense? Avoidants are definitely control freaks, if you will, because control is the only thing that allows them to feel safe. Because if they control their schedule, their time, the people in their life, then those people, that time, everything that they do will not hurt them, will not make them feel terrible. And so love, you can't control love. You don't know when you're going to fall in love. You don't know what's going to happen when you fall in love. And so when they actually fall in love with you, that's typically when the avoidantly attached person will start to disengage, distance themselves, because the fear of rejection starts to kick in. If someone rejected you that you're not in love with, it's not really going to hurt that bad. But if you've been in love with someone for a year and you've been dating and just spending a lot of time with this person, and then they break up with you, that's going to hurt a lot more. Does that make sense? I think you understood that one. So the other thing is, avoidantly attached people fear conflict as well. They fear conflict because if you have a problem, you have to tell your partner, listen, this is how I feel. I need this from you. And to have that conversation, you have to be vulnerable, right? And you're also risking rejection again. So conflict, challenges, whenever you run into one, it typically just ends in a breakup for a lot of people in early stages of a relationship, like the 3-month relationship, because having to, find a resolution to a problem, not something avoidants want to do. So rather than fighting for the relationship and fighting to make things work, they're just like, you know what? I'm going to emotionally disengage and just step away from the situation altogether, because it's too much and I don't want to handle this or deal with this. And the other thing is, when an avoidantly attached person feels like the relationship is becoming too serious and there's a lot of commitment and now they don't really have an escape route, or they do, but they feel stuck and suffocated, what they will do is try to hold on to as much independence as they possibly can and just isolate themselves from you, from everyone, so that they can gain some level of control. Because when you're all by yourself and you're just doing your own thing and no one's in your circle, no one can hurt you. And so that's what they can control. They'll control what they can control and let go of the rest. And it comes to a point where they are like, you know what? I can control you, and therefore I'm going to remove you from my life because you're the only thing I can control. And then it will go back to normal. And then I'll feel okay again. And then I'll be all by myself. And that is where I feel the safest and most secure. Does that make sense? So they're not going to fight for you. They're not going to chase you because they want to be alone more than anything in the world. So when they are alone, they'll finally feel good and safe. Hi, baby.
Hi, baby.
I love you. I'm making a podcast. Avoidants rely on themselves for emotional regulation, okay? They don't need anyone else in their life to help calm them down, make them happy, make them feel safe and secure, unlike the anxious attached person who literally needs another human, which is typically the avoidant attached partner, in order to feel safe, secure, happy, all the things that the avoidant person feels as well. The avoidant, the closer you guys are together, or even after the breakup, if you're still talking all the time, the avoidantly attached person is not going to feel the desire to chase you or fight for the relationship because they still don't feel safe. Being with you makes them feel unsafe. So being by themselves makes them feel safe and secure. So they're going to distance themselves from you until they feel safe again. So that's why even after the breakup, you're like, what's going on? Like, they might reach out to you because they feel alone. They feel very lonely, which is very common with avoidantly attached people, but they're not going to want to fight for the relationship because they still don't feel that sense of security and safety. They might feel safe around you as a friend, but they're not going to feel safe around you as a romantic partner. Avoidantly attached people have this belief, and like the voices in their head will like confirm this belief, that they are not the relationship type. Like, they do not do relationships. Labels on relationships is not something that they do. Period. End of story. Okay. So whenever they get into a relationship with someone, typically an anxious person, and it doesn't work out, they get to say, see, I told you so. You are never going to be in a relationship. That's just the way that you are. you're unlovable, etc. Okay. And again, I think this is so ironic because anxious people have similar beliefs, but they don't have the voices in their head saying, you suck, you're never going to be in a relationship, you're the bad person, you always mess things up, etc. Anxious people they don't look at themselves, they look at their partner and they're like, I need to fix you and then everything will be okay. Because again, they look externally to find their sense of comfort. Avoidants look internally to find their sense of comfort. So if both of those environments are messed up or not like in order, then both people will freak out because they don't want to feel rejected, unlovable, and they'll do whatever it takes to feel normal again, which is clawing onto the thing that will keep them safe. Anxious people claw onto their partner, avoidant people claw onto themselves, and that's it, okay? Basically, avoidantly attached people as well, I was going off this, but because they have that belief that relationships are just not the thing for them, like they are not a relationship person, they also have this belief that over time being in a relationship with you, they'll feel like they're not attracted to you anymore. Like they just don't enjoy the conversations with you. Like maybe you actually aren't the right person for me. Like these are the thoughts that they'll have. And so when they start thinking that once or twice and then all the time, they start to believe it and they start to use that as the momentum for why they want to break up with you or escape the relationship, rather than understanding and bringing light to their actual fear of rejection or this very open wound of rejection. Also, avoidantly attached people, they might not fight for you because they have this belief that you're just not the right person for me. So why should I fight for someone or chase someone that isn't my person, like isn't my puzzle piece that's supposed to fit perfectly? Why chase after something that's not meant for you? And so they just don't. Okay, this could be the case while you guys are still dating, right before the breakup, or even after the breakup, because they're validating like, see, we weren't meant to be together. See, I'm not meant for relationships. See, I'm not lovable. See, this person wasn't meant for me. There's something better. My ex, this person, that person. Okay, and they'll get into another very similar relationship dynamic in the future. A lot of times, avoidantly attached people are just prioritizing logic over their emotions because they don't want to be in tune with their emotions, because emotions are seen as a bad thing. It makes them weak to have emotions. So it's like use their brain, their logic to make a decision. Like, this person isn't right for me because of XYZ. That's it. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel because I've numbed all of my emotions and emotions are bad, so I'm not going to listen to that. On the surface, they're not attractive, bad conversations, the end. End of relationship. That's kind of how they're thinking about it. There's no reason to fight. There's no reason to chase. End of the relationship. Okay. And then the last reason why an avoidantly attached person is not going to fight for you is because they have a fear around long-term relationships, aka being in a committed relationship. So why would you fight for something that brings you so much fear? Okay. It's like, imagine you're terrified of watching horror movies. Okay. And someone's like, well, what movie do you want to watch? Do you want to watch this comedy, which is like the genre you like, or do you want to watch a horror movie? You'd probably say, I want to watch the comedy. Why would you like convince your friend that you wanted to watch the horror movie when you don't like horror movies? They scare you. It's like, it's not fun. It's not something you want to do in your free time. It's not the way you want to live your life. So why watch the horror movie? Why get scared for no reason? So that's an interesting analogy, but that's kind of what's going on with your avoidant partner. They fear commitment. They fear being stuck, being locked down with another person. And so why even play the game? Just why be in a relationship? So they leave. They're not going to fight for you. Why fight for something that's scary? End of story. And it's like, if you're scared of watching those horror movies, watching them is so uncomfortable. It's like, you're like, I don't want to watch it. I'm scared. Like, you're holding onto your pillow. It's like, it's an uncomfortable experience. You can do it, but it's so uncomfortable. And so over time, if you watch enough horror movies, you probably start picking up on the plots and you can kind of guess what's going to happen in a lot of movies. And then you realize all of it is fake and it's all like makeup and, video editing, and it's really not that scary. And that's how you get over the fear. And so, yeah, avoidantly attached people can do it. They can get over the fear of rejection, of commitment, of being vulnerable, like all these fears, they can work through them. It's just uncomfortable, scary, and why carve out time to do that if you really don't have to, because what you have going on is working, So I don't know. I just like to look at the mindset from the other side as well, just so you can kind of understand both sides of the situation. Instead of leaning into the fear, all of the fears that the avoidant attached individual has, instead what they do is just emotionally detach, isolate, and remove themselves from the relationship. The thing is, a lot of avoidants have escape routes. While they're dating you, they're like, okay, how can I get out of this? How can I leave this relationship and feel free, independent? Because they have an escape route, it helps them to emotionally detach. That's why when you start talking to them and it feels like they're not listening, or they don't care, or they're not texting you back, or they're not going on a date with you, or etc., it's because they've emotionally detached. They basically just suppress their feelings so much that they feel zero connection to you. And that hurts because you feel it. You know, if you have anxious attachment, you know all the tiny little movements in their body language, all of the tone of voice. If it changes slightly, you're like, something's off, something's wrong. If they're not texting you back the same exact way, if they're not sending you those emojis, if they're not liking your story, like any behavior change, you're like, what is going on? When you have anxious attachment, your system can be activated very easily if your partner is acting different, because you feel a threat that you will then be left all alone. It's uncomfortable. That's why you're addicted to them, obsessed with them after the breakup, because you just want to feel normal again. You just want them to come back and bring you comfort, but they're not. They're gone because their comfort is being away from you. I'm sorry, I'm just bringing you the hard truths. It is a fact that you can make it work with an avoidantly attached person if you have anxious attachment, because you can work together to become secure. You can work together to learn how to communicate. And I actually just made a podcast episode on how to make it work with your avoidant partner, how to communicate effectively and understand each other. So go check out that episode. I think it was the one right before this. Basically, then the last step for an avoidantly attached person, they're not going to chase you because they're not going to fight for you. They're not going to chase you because after they've emotionally disengaged and they feel nothing, they then have decided, you know what? I'm convinced I am just going to break up with you because I feel nothing. It's like, why would you hang out with a friend that you have nothing in common with? Like, whenever you're together, you have really bad conversations. It's like, you just feel like you're wasting your time. Like, that is how your avoidant partner feels about you. And I know that sucks because it's like, at one point, it was so good. It was so fresh. The conversations were flowing. Like, the vibes were there. And now it's gone. And like, unfortunately, that's the reality of things sometimes. And yes, you can make it work. But what I would suggest is look inward and realize that the only thing you can really change is yourself. You can't shake your partner and tell them like, you have avoidant attachment, I will help you. Like, that's not going to make them feel inclined to work towards healing their wounds and healing their attachment style. It's not how it works. When people go to therapy and actually find breakthroughs, it's because they choose to do it. If you tell someone you're fat, you need to lose weight, they probably won't do it. But when they decide, I want to become healthier, I want to lose weight, and they decide for themselves to make the decisions and take actions to lose weight, that's when the weight starts to drop, right? Because the person with the problem, the person with the wound, the person with the journey that they need to take, and they're at the beginning, they are the ones that need to make the decision to make a difference, make the change, not you. So the best thing you can do if you are in a relationship with someone with avoidantly attached, if you are with someone that has an avoidant attachment, is understand they feel trapped in the relationship. They just fear intimacy. They feel trapped. They don't know how to communicate with you. It's just a very challenging thing to work through. Okay. You can either have that open conversation with them, like, we can work through this together. I have my own stuff I need to work on. You do too. Listen to my other podcast for like that exact script of what to say. Or what you can do is say, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for helping me understand I have my own wounds that I need to heal. Thank you for helping me understand I have triggers. And now I understand why I behave the way I do. Because you triggered me, because you made me uncomfortable, because you were helping me see that I actually have a lot of growing that needs to take place. The thing is, a lot of times when you are experiencing pain in a relationship, it's because there's something you need to become more aware of, dig deeper, understand why that's there to heal it. And a lot of times when you're in a relationship, that's when you'll start to see those blind spots on you. So thank them. Thank you for making me feel this way. Thank you for this relationship. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this experience. I don't think we should continue forward because it sounds like you have some stuff you need to work through. I have some stuff I need to work through. And I wish you the best. I really do. And if you love them enough, you'll be able to let them go. Because it's like the saying, what you love, you have to set free. And if it comes back to you, it's meant to be. That's honestly the truth of it. It's the truth. Because when you let them go, you can then grow and become the person you need to be to find the love. You need to grow into the person that you need to be that can hold on to the love that you deserve. Because right now there's some things you need to work through, and that's okay. It's a journey. It's all a journey. It doesn't have to happen overnight. So that is it for this episode, you guys. If you are interested in working on your attachment style and you want to be more secure, I did write a book. It's called How to Get Over Your Avoidant Ex and Become Securely Attached. It's great for anxiously attached people, but avoidants have also read it and enjoyed it. It really helps understand how to work and heal your wounds to become secure. So that's on Amazon. It's $11. Also, if you have a very specific relationship situation and you want me to hear your story, feel free to sign up for video call coaching down below. We can get on a Zoom call and I would love to hear your story and give you some advice. So all of those links will be down below. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.